Good afternoon. My name is Maynard Alejandro, and for today I will going to discuss about the graffiti model. Let's start. But the question is, what is a graffiti model? Let's take a look. A graffiti model is a cooperative learning structure in which students are asked to give written responses to the question given by the teacher. The graffiti model is considered as an excellent way to check for understanding or to evaluate the effectiveness of one's instructional delivery. It is also a way to reinforce what has been taught or to do an informal assessment of what students have understood and retained from a given lesson or unit. So you can see here there is an example. So this is a graffiti. Yes, graffiti sheets, and this is how it looks like. Next, so there are general steps, all right, in order for you to follow the graffiti model. So there are 6 steps. Okay, let's start first with the first step. Step 1 is prepare graffiti questions. This is where the teacher prepares question and divides students into a study groups, or students can organize themselves into a small study groups. The teacher prepares a limited number of review questions. It could be from 4 to 5 questions. And this is also can be done by a committee of students. Next is the step 2, distribution of materials. Each student use a different colored marker or a different colored post-it or colored file card. Responses can also be recorded on a large piece of paper that has been divided into a quadrants or segments whereby each student scribes his or her answers in a different color. This method of color coding, yes, differentiation allows students to keep track or trace their responses. The third step, answer questions. At the end of the time interval, questions are exchanged, and this continues until each team has an opportunity to answer all the questions. Yes. And next is step 4, exchanging of questions. This is where teams exchange question, responses, and the process continues until all teams have read all of the other teams' responses. Teams are encouraged to note new or different information from other teams. Next step is step number 5, return to original questions or returning of original questions. So this is where teams get their original response sheets back and review all of their original answers. Yes, this is where they review everything that they've answered from the graffiti sheets that have been distributed. Then they arrange their answers into a category and arrive at a generalization and additions based on reading and studying other teams' responses. And for the last step, the step 6, all right, this is where they share information. So groups then share materials with the whole class. Yes, so noting the new information learned through a sharing sessions. So those are the 6 general steps in following or in using the graffiti model strategy. Now let's take a look at the example of a lesson plan using a graffiti model. So I use my own example here. So basically this is Aralin Panlipunan. So let's take a look at my example lesson plan using the graffiti model. Alright, so the lesson here is lesson plan in Araling Panlipunan Social Study 10. So the topic here is gender roles sa iba't ibang bahagi ng daigdig. Yes. Next, so the contents, yes, so the learning competency of this lesson plan is based from the MELCs, yes, or the most essential learning competencies. So we have here, natatalakay ang mga uri ng kasarian, gender, at sex at gender roles sa iba't ibang bahagi ng daigdig. So this lesson will took about 1 to 2 weeks. So that's why we have time frame here for week 1 and 2. Next is, we have first one, the learning objectives. So the learning objectives is divided into three categories: the cognitive, affective, and the psychomotor. Now for the cognitive, natutukoy ang konsepto at katanian ng gender at sex. While on the affective domain, we have here napapahalagahan ang pagkakaiba ng sexual orientation at gender identity. At ang pangatlo, psychomotor, na ilalahad ang kasaysayan ng LGBT sa Pilipinas. Dito, at ito ang nagsisilbing gabay sa mga estudyante. Yes, nagsisilbing gabay sa estudyante at nagsisilbing ding gabay or mga goal. Yes, pagkatapos talakayin ang lesson. Tutungo tayo sa pangalawa, ang subject matter. Ang subject matter includes lesson content, skills, attitudes, and values. Under sa lesson content, dito makikita ang paksa, which is the gender roles sa iba't ibang bahagi ng daigdig. Second is the skills. This is where words such as pagkaunawa at paghahambing took place. Yes. Dito nasasanay kung paano nagagamit ang mga skills ng mga mag-aaral. Ang pangatlo is ang attitude and values. Sa attitude and values, dapat ay paggalang at mutual support at unity. Matutunan ito dapat ng mga estudyante. Ang paggalang, kung ano mutual support at paano kahalaga ang unity. At ating gagamiting mga kagamitan para sa ating paksa or instructional materials. Una ay ang TV. Yes, dahil ako ay magpapakita ng mga larawan at video. Next, ito ay colored markers. Ito ay gagamitin sa ating activity mamaya gamit ang strategy na Graffiti Model. PowerPoint presentation, dito ko ilalahad ang mga lesson, topic list, content. YouTube video, kasi magpapakita ako ng mga video patungkol sa LGBTQ sa Pilipinas at sa buong daigdig. At ang mga graffiti sheets. Yeah, ito ang pinaka-importanteng materyales na gagamitin natin sa ating activity. Yes. At kasunod naman, dito na natin magagamit ang teaching strategies o Graffiti Model. So, I just follow the steps. Okay, so I have here an example. So first is preparing the graffiti questions. So ang guro ay naghahanda ng 5 tanong na nilalayon para sa bawat isa sa 5 pangkat. So I have prepared 5 questions here. Let me read them first. So we have paano nakakaiba ang sexual orientation, gender identity at gender expression. Pangalawa, ipaliwanag ang konsepto ng seksualidad at kasarian. Pangatlo, ano ang naging katayuan, kampanya ng babae at lalaki sa kasalukuyang panahon sa iyong pamayanan. Pang-apat, ibigay ang kahulugan ng LGBTQ at balik kailangan nating pag-aralan ito. At pang-5, magsaad ng pananaw at opinyon sa kontemporaryong issue ukol sa LGBTQ. Kasunod, step 2 is the distributing the materials. Ang guro ay nagbibigay ng mga colored markers at meta cards sa miyembro ng bawat pangkat. Sa pamamagitan ng color coding, bawat miyembro ng pangkat ay magsusulat ng kanilang sariling sagot sa binigay na sariling meta cards na inilathala para lamang sa kanilang grupo. Yes. At ang step 3, okay, my mistake. Ito ay step 3. So, ito ay answering to questions. So, dito, ang grupo ay sasagot sa graffiti sheet na aking ibibigay sa bawat pangkat. Sila ay mayroong tig 2 minuto, 2 minutes only, upang pag-isipan ang mga sagot sa katanungan bago ito isulat. Ang bawat tanong ay dapat tumutuma sa isang tugon ng meta card. Yes, so, dapat ay kailangan alam ng mga estudyante kung ano ang kanilang isasagot. Okay? Next ay ang step 4. Dito, exchanging of questions. So, pagkatapos sila sagutin ang kanilang sariling tanong, ay ipapasa ito patungo sa isa pang pangkat. Ang pagpapalitan ng tanong ay ginagawa matapos ang 3 minuto upang makumpleto ang pagsagot sa lahat ng mga ibinigay na tanong. At ang step 5, returning to the previous questions or returning to the original questions, ito ay ang pagtatapos ng carousel of questions. So kapag ang tanong na ibinigay sa unang grupo ay bumalik na, ito ay nagpapahiwatig na pagtatapos ng graffiti. Ang lahat ng miyembro sa pangkat ay nakakakuha ng kanilang mga graffiti sheet o meta card upang masuri at lahat ng isinulat ng mga tugon. Sila ay nagtipon-tipon sa mga tugon ng lahat ng miyembro at nag-label ng ilang mga konsepto at gumawa ng pangkalahatan or generalization. Okay? Dito na nila ginagawa, yes, lahat ng mga generalization kung saan ibabase nila sa mga sagot na nakuha nila base sa mga questions na napunta sa kanila. Okay? Next ay ang pang-anim, which is the sharing of information. Ang guro ay aatasan ang mga mag-aaral para isulat ang kanilang mga feedbacks kung paano tumugon ang mga miyembro ng buong klase sa 5 tanong na ibinahagi ng guro. Dito magkakaroon ng sharing of information. Yes. So, out from the generalization na ginawa nila, ay dapat mailathala nila ito sa mga mag-aaral sa harapan ng klase. At doon nagtatapos ang graffiti strategies sa lesson na ito. Para sa assessment nila, ay magbibigay ako ng isang written examination. Yes, paper pencil test. Ito ay 10 questions. So, dito ay panuto, piliin at pilugan ang tamang sagot. Ang mga katanungan ay nakabase sa aming talakayan tungkol sa gender at sex, okay, gender expression, gender orientation. So, mayroon itong 1 to 10 items. At gagawin ito pagkatapos ng talakayan at pagkatapos ng sharing of information ng bawat grupo. At para sa kanilang assignment ay magsasaliksik tungkol sa iba't ibang gender roles sa daigdig para sa susunod na aralin. Yes. So, dito nagtatapos ang aking talakayan. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig at yon ang Graffiti Model. So, it is very important that we know each cooperative learning strategies. And thank you all. I hope you enjoy and learn something from today's lesson. Goodbye and good afternoon.